All right, and we're live. Ready?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. We are live. Hello. Hi, guys. Late. This is so not late for me. This is 3 minutes late. Come on. Come on, guys. Welcome to the Katie Halper Show special. What's the word? Unplanned, last minute fly by the seat of my pants. Our
Spontaneous.
Pants. Spontaneous. Yeah, spontaneous Katie Halper Show live stream, late night live stream with none other than Briahna Joy Gray. And we were inspired. We were just talking with Michael Moore on his podcast on Rumble. And we were like, we got into some interesting topics. And then we were like, let's keep it going. So that's what we're doing here. So we're here. We're keeping it going.
We commandeered his important political podcast and made it about fish sex, vertebrate viviparity, and online dating.
Yeah, and online dating. Yeah, which he was very curious about. I thought that was funny when I was like, surprise, you're on a date, on a blind date. Not just blind.
He was cute.
No, blind date is when you don't know the person, right?
Yes.
What is it when you're like
a... This is like a
ambush date. Yeah.
Ambush date.
So that was really fun, yeah. Anyway, yeah, we are dressed in non-bed because we were on this podcast and it was a late night thing. And, I got to say, I'm trying to turn over a new leaf, which I feel bad saying about with Brie, but I'm trying to go to bed earlier, and you're kind of like my late night buddy, but
I hear you, yeah. And I also want to go to bed earlier, but to me, that's a shift from going to bed at 4 a.m. to going to bed at like 2 a.m.
Yeah, and then getting up to 1 a.m. maybe at some point, yeah.
Exactly. To that end, I will say that I started off March right. I went to the gym today, and I went to bed on time last night. The problem was I just lay awake in bed watching YouTube videos and listening to podcasts until 3 a.m.
You guys want to make sure that people who are watching this have subscribed to this show. You just press subscribe, and you press the bell, and also make sure that you... why not rate and review this if you listen on podcasts, and also become Patreon supporters at patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show. Again, that's patreon.com/The Katie Halper Show, because we give a lot of free... I'm committed to doing this, but some people charge almost all Patreon. I'm just saying. So thank me for not doing that. Support other shows that do, and just thank me by giving me like throw me $1 a month if you want, and if you want extra content, the $5. But so should we play this? Did you see this video of Psaki?
Oh, the Psaki of today, the person asking the question about Neera.
This is our Psaki bomb woke wash of the day.
Bless these journalists doing journalism, by the way.
I couldn't believe it. They did a journalism. Okay. Ooh.
Parliamentarian decision. You said that he respects that decision, but progressives don't understand this. In some respect, they're like, why not fight for this? So why is the White House not more aggressively challenging that and sending the vice president to try and potentially overrule that with a vote?
Well, the decision for the vice president to vote to overrule or to take a step to overrule is not a simple decision. It would also require 50 votes. As you know, it's not a one-step decision.
It's
and
the
president and the
decision.
vice president both respect the history of the Senate.
Okay,
they are both formally served in the Senate.
Do you respect
an action
the
we
Senate
intend to
more
take?
than millions of struggling Americans?
The answer is yes.
The White House doesn't have 50 votes to confirm Neera Tanden as OMB director, and yet we heard from the White House Chief of Staff say that the White House they're going to fight their guts out. Fight our guts out was the phrase he used to get her confirmed. So why push for that and not push as hard, one could say, for raising the minimum wage? You could make the argument that the American people stand to benefit more from a higher wage than they would from a chosen OMB director.
Well, I think that's mixing a few things kind of irresponsibly, if I'm just being totally honest. I would say on the minimum wage, the president included a raise of the minimum wage in his package because he felt strongly that it's long overdue, that men and women working hard, trying to make ends meet, shouldn't be living at the poverty level.
Okay. So let's just... I'm sorry, I didn't give a trigger warning for that.
Well, for one, I just really want to celebrate the solidarity of the second reporter who followed up on the first reporter's question.
Yeah.
Because that is how you start to establish a pattern of accountability. They can only worm out of these questions if everyone in the room engages in the collective action failing of prioritizing whatever their little peccadillo is instead of drilling down on the point at issue.
Right. And I think the guy had to like sneak it in, which I don't hate him for, but he was like, well, you're not really... So progressive don't understand that. It was kind of a strategic way of asking it because he didn't alienate her. You know what I mean? Like which made her more, I think, a little bit less defensive than the second question when they're literally like, why are you fighting harder for a Neera Tanden nomination than for to raise the minimum wage?
Yeah,
But,
and have a quote ready that we're gonna fight tooth and nail or whatever. Whatever
fight our guts out. That is
Fight
just
our-
gross. Come
Fight
on,
our
man.
guts
Like,
out.
why are you going to say that?
Right.
Fight
And
our
then
guts out.
this idea that because you stated something as a priority, that means you also fought really hard for it. I mean, if that were the case, then there would be no divorces because everyone says in their marriage vows they're
Right.
going to love and obey in sickness and in health, to death do we part, blah, blah, blah. And imagine saying, well, I pledged I would be faithful. That's constructively the
right.
same thing as me actually being faithful. Don't look at Patricia and my illegitimate child over there. Like,
Right.
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But this is a pattern of something that you've talked about a lot, Katie, of this kind of weaponization of sincerity, weaponization. I see you. I hear you. I feel your pain. I pledged to do this. I said I'm going to fight for you.
Yeah.
And that is supposed to be a kind of cloak and mirrors for a party that oftentimes, because it shares a corporate donor base with the Republican Party, is equally invested in not pursuing any of the priorities that a bipartisan majority of Americans want.
Yeah, and it's actually quite dangerous because these people get credit for having empathy. Like, I'm sorry, how much empathy did you have when you bombed Syrians last week? Where was
Correct.
the empathy there? Where's the empathy when you're not fighting, when you're not fighting your guts out to give people a more dignified, livable wage? Like, why aren't you, like, they're like, rhetorically, we like this, but they don't have any of the, like, what's the word that I would use? Like, it's like such neuter language. Like, they can't say anything like it's a right or, Americans are hurt. Like, they can kind of do the Americans are struggling, but it's not like this where they're going to fight their guts out. Like, they're not even going to, like, fracture an ankle like Biden did playing with a
imagine this.
dog. Yeah.
If I sincerely wanted a $15 minimum wage, and I thought the obstacles were the parliamentarian, Joe Manchin, and Kirsten Sinema, what I would say in that situation, as someone who really actually wanted to pass a $15 minimum wage, was millions of Americans are hurting with unemployment levels that are historical and haven't been seen since the Great Depression. Our minimum wage hasn't been raised since 2009? It's absolutely unconscionable. If minimum wage had kept up to what it was when I was earning a minimum wage job in the 60s or whatever the heck, I don't know how old Biden is, but in the history times, then it would have been 24 hours dollars an hour now, and you should be grateful. The compromise position is a $15 minimum wage, and if Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin want to go before their constituents in their states, she's at the platform in front of the whole country giving these remarks right now. If they want to go to their respective states, West Virginia, which is the poorest state in the union, in Arizona, and tell the people who are struggling there that they don't support a $15 minimum wage, I dare them. Let's go. We're going to have a vote on the full package of relief for Americans. And if they want to stand against the American people, I suggest that everyone in those states go out, as Kashama Swant has advised them to do, and rally and protest and demonstrate what the constituents there actually want and need. As for the parliamentarian, that's an advisory opinion, and I, as president of the United States, choose not to take that advice.
Yeah, and the Republicans fired theirs, so...
Right, you can ignore them. They passed welfare reform. You're supposed to tell me that an administrative post that nobody voted for, an undemocratic, unelected post, is going to decide whether or not millions of Americans get a living wage?
Yeah, it's really, really ridiculous.
My vice president is Kamala Harris, and she has made a commitment to guaranteeing Americans a $15 minimum wage, and she will do whatever is required, including overturning the parliamentarian's decision to guarantee that we fulfill our campaign promises to the American people.
So this is your speech for Biden if he had a...
Right, but they don't say this not because they don't have good speechwriters or they're stupid. They don't say it because they don't believe it and they don't want it. Instead, Joe Biden, and we talked about this on Bad Faith Podcast, Joe Biden, a week before any of this stuff about the parliamentarian came out, was talking about how the parliamentarian probably isn't going to be able to approve approve this.
Right, I remember that. Yeah.
On no basis whatsoever. All of the people coming out of the Bernie left part of the Senate was saying, of course they can do this. They passed welfare reform. Welfare reform, one of the worst, most substantive disasters for working people in this country.
Thanks in part to Neera Tanden, by the way.
Yeah, thanks in part. They opened up drilling in the Arctic. They passed George Bush's. They fired the parliamentarian. George Bush fired his parliamentarian over the tax cuts. Okay, that inured overwhelmingly to the benefit of the wealthiest people in the country. And Democrats won't stand by their political position in this moment at a point of historical crisis. It's not because they're stupid, and we have to stop
of course
acting like, oh, they're dumb, or Democrats just have more respect for
afraid,
procedure.
Yeah. Well, if they do, they're prioritizing procedure for a reason, and it's because they actually, it's an excuse, it's not that they're cowards; they don't want it. That's the big thing. It's not that they're spineless. They are spineless too, but they happen to not want it. Yeah.
So Republicans, the difference is, and we were talking about this a little bit in the aforementioned Clubhouse. Someone said, and I don't mean to go at this person. This person I think was offering this in good faith. But someone said, Democrats are too invested in parliamentary procedures and they just have more respect for procedure. No. What is happening here is that Republicans are able to advocate for what they want purely, forthrightly, because it's not in conflict with the narrative that they have as a party. So Republicans can say government spending is bad. I don't want to do this, period. They don't have to come up with convoluted things. Democrats and Republicans share a donor base, but Democrats have to come up with a justification for why what their actions are don't align with the stated priorities of the party. Oh, we help poor people. Oh, we help Black people. Oh, we help gay people. We love all these people. We're the bleeding hearts. And so to do that, what parliamentarianism does is these procedural things do is to provide excuses for why they aren't acting. And conservatives, blue dog Democrats have always served that function. And the reason that you don't have that kind of obstruction on the right as opposed to the left is because the right doesn't require that kind of narrative. They all, as a matter of party discipline, can just openly shoot down the good thing that will help their constituents. They rely on a whole host of other narratives about trickle-down economics and self-discipline and bootstraps and all of that stuff.